My name is Dave Crable. I'm with iHemp Michigan. iHemp Michigan is a member-based organization that is dedicated to educate, inform, and promote the research, development, and cultivation of industrial hemp in Michigan. iHemp Michigan advocates for wellness in people and the planet through hemp, and it begins with the farmer. Today, we have a special guest. We're going to get to that. We need to do a little update, but before we get to Mike Brennan with the little MITech News and Michigan Marijuana Report update, I wanted to share that we did receive our hemp mask, and I wanted to thank all those who have donated towards this. We're donating 200 hemp masks to Michigan Department of Ag and delivering those this afternoon. So I'm going to have to leave the show just a few minutes early. We have a tight window today to deliver those. As you know, everything's a little bit different in these times. So we're excited about that. There's still an opportunity for you to donate and help us out with the purchase of these hemp masks. And that information is linked up on iHemp Michigan website under the iHemp Hour, on the iHemp Hour page under events. So with that, thanks again. I just wanted to share that. And Mike, why don't you give us a little update from MITech News?
Yeah, thanks very much. As you know, we cover hemp news both at my primary website, MITech News, and also as a secondary website that I run with Dan Keelan called MI Marijuana Report. We lump in hemp with cannabis since it's just a variety of cannabis, right? So we cover it there, and then what we do is we produce these shows afterwards and share them with not only our audience, but we have an affiliation, I should say, with about a half a dozen cannabis groups, and we also share on those platforms, which gives us a reach of 20 to 30,000 people. And then, of course, once we produce this show, then it's available on demand, as it were, so you can watch it whenever you want. Again, that'll be at my two websites, also at the iHemp website. So even if you can't watch live, you can still watch it and glean this great information where we're trying to help folks so they can be better hemp farmers. Right, Dave and Blaine?
Absolutely.
Okay. Let's turn it over to Blaine. I'm not sure if you have any updates you want to provide, Blaine, but then if not, then go ahead and introduce our guest.
Yeah, just a little update I want to give on the latest USDA assistance program. And then, of course, we'll get to the yummy recipes at the end of the hour. But so the information now is out in pretty good details regarding, they call it the CFAP, the Coronavirus Food Assistance Program. There's a notice out regarding that, and it's pretty simple for most farmers to be able to apply for that. Unfortunately, in this program, there's two commodities that are not covered in this, and one is hemp and the other is tobacco. So, but this does cover a lot of things that haven't been covered in other programs. There's a dairy part of this for guys that are doing milking. Also, there's the regular crops that we have, corn and soybeans. White wheat is not covered under this program. And then also there's livestock as well, and then there's specialty crop that's also covered. So I won't go into too many more details right now with it, but if you just search USDA CFAP program, you'll get most of the information. If anyone needs any additional help, I'll put my information in the chat here in a minute. You can contact me and I can help work you through it. Again, for most farmers, it's really just recording, what you have, what you harvested. And then as long as you didn't sell it before January 15th, it's eligible for this program and be able to get some payments for it. So that's kind of the update on that. So it's my pleasure to introduce Mr. Jonathan Miller. I had the chance to meet him last year out at the NOCO show in Denver, and we had a few little chat, and he has worked tirelessly for the hemp industry. And I'm going to read a little bit of his bio, if you don't mind, just so you understand his background here. Jonathan Miller serves as the general counsel to the US Hemp Roundtable, the Hemp US leading national business advocacy organization, with member companies and organizations that represent nearly every link of the hemp product chain from seed to sales. Jonathan also serves as a member in the charge of the Foster Brown Todd law firm in Lexington, Kentucky, where he has emerged as one of the nation's leading advocates for the legislation of hemp. Upon leading successful lobbying efforts that laid the groundwork for the new laws that legalize hemp and hemp derivative CBD. Mr. Miller serves as the trusted counsel to dozens of companies in the industry hemp space with his full-service complement of law partners offering client counseling on issues ranging from intellectual property to corporate transactions to FDA regulations. Additionally, Mr. Miller helped lead the successful legal battle against the DEA's 2014 effort to ban the importation of hemp seeds for Kentucky pilot programs. In his nearly 2 decades of public service, Mr. Miller held numerous senior positions in the state and federal government, including 2 terms as Kentucky's elected state treasurer, serving as Kentucky's Secretary of Finance and Administration, as Deputy Chief of Staff of the U.S. Department of Energy, and as a legislative director for Congressman Jim Cooper. So that's quite a mouthful there, I know, Jonathan, but you, again, it was a pleasure meeting you then, and I know how tireless you've worked, and we want to cover a lot of topics with you today. So one of the things we do want to cover is your work for hemp, work from home. We're going to talk about that a little bit. And there's been a little bit of topic discussion lately about trying to move our THC level from 0.3 to 1%. So that's just some of the topics we're going to cover, but I'm going to turn it over to you. And thank you again for joining us today.
Sure. Thanks so much. Thanks so much for having me.
So maybe you can help us a little bit on current legislation that's going on. I know we've got the Safe Banking Act and some of those items that have been pushed through Congress. So where do we stand on that right now?
So there are, I guess, 3 big legislative initiatives going on in Washington right now. One is on the first issue that you mentioned before you introduced me, which is the CFAP program, the Coronavirus Food Assistance Program. Initially, as you mentioned, the USDA declared that hemp and tobacco would be automatically excluded. We put in a call to the hemp program at USDA. They had no idea about it. And I don't know if it was coincidental, but 2 hours later, the USDA took that prohibition off their website. Oh. However, they say that we now must prove that hemp prices went down at least 5% during the period of time of January to April of this year when coronavirus hit the country. So just this morning, the US Hemp Roundtable filed comments. We solicited from independent pricing groups data that demonstrates that not only did hemp suffer a 5% decline, it suffered, depending on the product, between 20 and 45% decline during that. Yeah. So we think the case is pretty strong, and we are quite hopeful that USDA will take another look and allow for hemp farmers to be eligible. That's something that we're going to be following pretty closely. Second issue, you mentioned the Safe Banking Act. The Safe Banking Act was first introduced a few years ago, and it was focused on marijuana banking. The fact that there are any number of states that permit marijuana, whether it's medical or adult use or both, but the federal government still prohibits it, still considers marijuana a controlled substance, and banks that are federally chartered are hesitant to do business with marijuana companies because they're afraid of federal regulation, federal auditing, or perhaps losing their licenses under the federal government. So the Safe Banking Act would fix all that and would provide a safe harbor for banks to engage in marijuana commerce. Hemp should not have this problem. Hemp is legal federally, and hemp banks should have the freedom to do business with hemp companies. In fact, the leading federal regulators have told banks and merchant services companies that it's okay. But we still see a huge number of banks scared of dealing with hemp companies, particularly with CBD companies. And so we have helped insert provisions in the Safe Banking Act that provide extra protection for hemp companies and extra assurance to banks and credit card companies they can do business with us. That bill, as many of you know, passed the House of Representatives overwhelmingly last year and has been stuck in the Senate, but now has been added to the latest House HEROES Act, which is their next round of coronavirus relief. The Senate has said, we don't like your bill. They've even pointed out to the marijuana provisions in that bill as particularly upsetting to them. But we really are excited that the House has taken this step because it demonstrates their strong support for safe banking. And whether or not it gets passed as part of this bill, it's a big step forward to hoping that we can get the Safe Banking Act passed by the end of the year. And finally, our biggest issue is the FDA and their continuing insistence in saying that CBD is illegal and their refusal to regulate CBD. They say they're on a path towards doing that, but have been taking much too long. And so we're working with our friends in Congress to try to force the FDA to finally recognize and regulate CBD. You know, about 80% of hemp farmers are growing for CBD, and this FDA public statements have cast a real cloud on the industry and have been one of the leading reasons why we've seen such a decline in prices. So we're hopeful again this year we'll see some legislation introduced that will provide relief.
What about the ruling on Epidiolex? Can you touch on that? They deregulated it or made it over the counter? What exactly happened with that?
Sure. So about 5 years ago, the FDA posted on their website a Q&A asking the question, is CBD legal? And their answer was, no, it's not legal. And their rationale has to do with kind of an obscure provision in federal law that says that if a drug is being investigated formally and it has never been introduced as a dietary supplement prior to that investigation, then it cannot be sold as a dietary supplement afterwards. And they were arguing that because GW Pharma, a big pharmaceutical company out of Great Britain, had been in investigational trials for a drug, Epidiolex, which treats kids with epilepsy, with rare forms of epilepsy, that CBD could not be sold by anybody else. We disagree with their rationale. And really importantly, this is not the law. This is just the FDA's opinion. And the FDA has not tried to enforce on that opinion. It's not tried to, go after companies just for selling CBD. They've only gone after companies who make medical claims. But yet, because they have said this and continue to say this, it's cast a pall on the industry. You get these big box stores like Target and Walmart that don't want to sell it yet. You get these big food companies like Procter & Gamble and Coca-Cola that don't want to yet add CBD to their foods and drinks because they're afraid of what the FDA might do. So we've got to get the FDA to change its position. If we don't, we need to get a law to force them to do that.
Do you see any?
Oh, we're making this interactive, folks. So if anyone has any questions, there's a chat box on the bottom, and then Facebook also. We're monitoring that. So any questions you have for Jonathan, please send them in so we can answer those questions for you while we have him on the line.
Let me ask more of a political question. Obviously, we have a presidential election coming up in November. Where do the two candidates stand on these issues? Have they made public statements about this?
It's not really clear when it comes to hemp. I think both, certainly from experience, Donald Trump is antagonistic towards marijuana. The Obama administration had issued something called the Cole Memorandum, which said that we weren't going to go after, the federal government wasn't going to go after marijuana businesses in states where it was legal. When Jeff Sessions was Attorney General, he revoked the Cole Memorandum, but now that William Barr is Attorney General, he's now put it back in place. So they're not going after marijuana companies in states, but they still support the federal illegality of it. Joe Biden has stated that he is still uncomfortable with legalizing marijuana. But when it comes to hemp, we really have not heard much from either of them, if anything, and hopefully we can convince both of them to be supportive.
Great.
Going back to the hemp, trying to get hemp into this new program that USDA has. So any discussion or ways that hemp farmers will be able to prove their yield, because that's one of the things they have to do with their crop. Any way that they've talked about that, how somebody's going to prove their yield to be able to get a payment?
Yeah, so the first thing I suggest folks to do is if you're not already following the Hemp Roundtable and have not signed up for free to be a hemp supporter, I encourage you to do that, because if you go to hempsupporter.com, click on the join box in the top right corner, fill out your email, you'll start getting our fairly regular updates on what's going on. And today's update, if you go to the website as well, is on the CFAP program and how you can have your voice heard. And so there is a link that we provide that will allow you to send direct comments to the USDA to let them know how you've struggled during this COVID period. It gives you instructions on, what they're looking for and how to frame it. And we encourage, again, the US Hemp Roundtable has sent our comments this morning, but we'd love to see hundreds, if not thousands, of hemp farmers follow suit with their own stories. The more we raise our voices, the more progress we'll have. And again, if you go to hempsupporter.com, sign up to be a hemp supporter, we'll get you all the free information on how to do that.
You said hempsupporter.com?
Yeah, www.hempsupporter.com. You go to the top right corner, there's a join, and just fill out your email, your zip code, so we know what state you're in. We also empower folks not only to talk to the USDA, but we have regular lobbying efforts for Congress, for state legislatures. Those of you that are in Michigan, when a bill is on the floor, a bill on the floor, we'll encourage folks to email their state legislators. So encourage you to do that. So the bigger the army we have, the more power we'll have.
Right. Well, I've signed up for that, and I get those regularly. So again, certainly support and encourage the work that you guys are doing to help make hemp a good, viable crop for our farmers in the United States here. Well, thanks, Dave, for putting that up there. So right now you said the House of the Heroes Act, that's where they're going to attach it to try to get the bill through there. Do you know where we're standing on that right now? Should we?
Yeah, so the Heroes Act, the Heroes Act passed the House. It now is over in the Senate. The Senate has said we're not going to pass the Heroes Act. There is a $3 trillion bill, and the Senate wants to provide relief, but something much less than that. So they're going to probably in the next few days or weeks introduce their own bill. It will likely not have the Safe Banking Act in it because they've expressed opposition to it. But we'd like to give it a try. But more importantly, the more that we contact our senators and ask them to support this, the more likely it is that when the House and Senate get together to resolve their differences, that the Senate will concede and go with the House version, which has the Safe Banking Act. So again, hempsupporter.com, we've got a campaign on there that if you just type in your email and zip code, an email automatically pops up to both your senators, urging them to support the Safe Banking Act in any final stimulus package. And we've got an email that we've written, but we prefer it if you will edit that email and add your own stories, particularly if you've had trouble with banks or credit card companies or other merchant services, letting your senators know that this is something that's important to you. And, I know Senator Stabenow from Michigan is the ranking member of the Senate Agriculture Committee. So she has a whole lot of sway on this. And Senator Peters is up for re-election, and he's going to care what you all think. So I encourage you to send emails to both of them.
Let me ask you another political question. In both of their cases, have they made any statements about this? Whether they support hemp and banking and all that?
I in terms of banking, I haven't heard anything. I don't. That doesn't mean they haven't said it. I just don't look that closely per state. But I do know, particularly Senator Stabenow was very supportive of the 2018 Farm Bill, which fully legalized hemp. She was in the room when it was created because she is the ranking member of that committee, and I do know that she's been a real strong supporter of hemp there.
So I guess David Blaine, she needs to hear from you guys, right? So
Absolutely.
Spoke to her office. It's just before our expo. We were looking at getting her involved in January. So I'll circle back around to her, reach out to that contact. I have a contact in her office.
And as he referenced, Senator Peters is up for re-election, so he'd probably be amenable to the idea as well, I would think, right?
Oh yeah, I'm a recovering politician. I was the state treasurer.
Do they ever recover?
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever recover, but I can tell you that don't underestimate the power of contacting your representatives, particularly in an election year. They really do want to respond to their constituents, and if they hear from one of you, that's great. If they hear from 5 of you, that's terrific. But if everyone on this Zoom went to our website, sent an email to Senator Peters and Senator Stabenow, again, we make it really easy. I'm counting what other 25 people on this call. I mean, that's an enormous statement already. Make that a couple hundred, it becomes something that they can't refuse to pay attention.
Well, typically we're also on Facebook Live right now, and typically we draw out several hundred people. We've drawn almost 1,000 for some of these. So, I mean, it's a bigger audience than just the 25 that are right now involved with this particular on the Zoom call.
Yeah, if everyone on this call and listening on Facebook or watching on Facebook and every other place, if every one of you went to hempsupporter.com and filled out that email to your senators, I mean, they would take notice, because, and remember, a lot of the staff right now aren't in their office. They're at home. They're on their computers,
right,
and they've got less distractions. And so if they got 200 emails today asking for the Safe Banking Act, they'd be like, okay, I better pay attention to this.
Gets their attention.
Yeah. We're getting some questions over there, Blaine or Dave, whoever wants to.
So got one from Lori. She's asking statewide or nationwide, are you seeing a decline number of acres being grown in 20 versus 19 across the United States? Do you have a feeling on that, where you're at?
Yeah. Yes, we expect there to be a significant decline in the states where there has been the most growth. And so in the historic hemp states that have been around for 5-6 years, Kentucky, Colorado, Oregon, we do expect a significant decline. A lot of that has to do with too many people growing in 2019. That has a result in the decline in prices. You've had these things going on where everybody's been growing hemp, and then the FDA has kind of shut down the demand for hemp. So you get higher supply, lower demand. That's why you see the prices crashing. Mm-hmm. However, in states that are new to this, there's just a whole lot of excitement. So in Florida and Texas, you're getting hundreds of new people wanting to get in this area. Mm-hmm. So I think you'll see an overall decline, but the fact that you've got all these new states on board is going to make up for the fact that the bigger states are probably going to decline more greatly.
So Ken had made a comment here. He's had conversations with Senator Peters, and he says he is very supportive of both the marijuana and the hemp. Is his take on that from Ken. Lori also asked, as we think of the future of industrial hemp, are you seeing more investments going into industrial applications versus the force we have today in the CBD market?
Yeah, so about 87% of all hemp farming across the country is CBD. That's not sustainable. It is at some point we've already started to see the issues with demand affecting CBD. To me, the most exciting application is the industrial application. It's the fiber. You see in Europe hemp used for plastics, car paneling for BMWs. You see hemp concrete materials. And that is where the most exciting economics come out of. So I'm not poo-pooing CBD. I think it's going to be popular for quite some time, and we're going to learn more about other cannabinoids as the years progress. But to me, if I'm in wanting to be a processor, if I'm wanting to create products, I would really start looking at the hemp fiber, because that has extraordinary applications. It's going to be a great way for folks to make money, and I'm hopeful that it will help employ so many more hemp farmers who can't keep up with the CBD products, but could grow for fiber and profit that way.
Well, we had Gary Schuler on the show 2 shows ago from GTF, and Blaine and Dave know him well. He's actually trying to develop a hemp textile manufacturing industry in Michigan. I'm not sure where that stands, guys. Have you any updates how Gary's doing?
Can I touch on that, Blaine? So
Go ahead.
it's not just the textiles. We're looking at a lot of fiber applications, and Gary's been leading the charge in that area. And we're starting communications with, it's a chicken and egg type scenario. So Jonathan, we need to raise $3 million to build a processing plant here in Michigan. What would you suggest is the best course to make that happen?
Well, unfortunately,
You have a checkbook right there.
this COVID time, this
He's a
COVID period,
politician. Of course, he has a checkbook, right?
this COVID period is tough.
Yeah.
So, but we're gonna get out of this, and once the economy resumes, I think there's going to be a lot more interest in investing in this field, and I really being able to put together a strong business plan when it comes to hemp fiber. I think that there is a lot of money out there. There will be a lot of money out there that will be interested in this. Again, CBD has peaked to a degree, and those who are going to be getting interested in this I think are going to look to fiber. But having a real strong business plan that shows how the money is going to be made and how the products are going to be sold is going to be the key.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
and what I would really, while you're in Michigan, while I'm thinking of this, I mean, a place that would be really good to focus on is the auto manufacturers.
mm-hmm.
Again, in Europe, hemp is used in a lot of cars, and if we could get Ford and GM to start considering hemp, that would explode the marketplace.
We were just in March, late March, early April. We were going to do a tour. Ford's Debbie Malinsky is material science lead for Ford Motor Company, and they have a goal of an entirely plant-based interior of a Ford vehicle. And we were going to go get a tour and bring some hemp samples and get that happening. And of course, everything is on hold right now. But there's another opportunity that popped up. But it's all going to take time and energy to make this happen.
There's been a lot of great conversations that we've had up to everybody. And again, this is all, again, we're still in our research program part here, right? This is year 2 for us. But a lot of things have happened in this last month where a lot of things have moved in the livestock area. Working with a gentleman that does feed rations and for dairy cows and beef cows. And we're trying to get MSU is trying to come on board with trying to get some grants. So we're moving in a real good area here with trying to get the livestock feed going with the grain. And using also the stalk of the plant as almost a straw that they use in kind of a mix. So some really good things happening there. And like Dave said, there's been some conversations with Ford and other people. So we're moving that direction. I'm real encouraged at this point with what's happening. It's just like, it just takes that time to get that momentum going. And it's like Dave said, it's the chicken and the egg, Well, we need to have 1 million pounds of it, but you got to let the farmers know you need it now. You can't let us know you need 1 million pounds in October, right? I mean, if we need it, we got to plan it now for you, kind of thing.
Yeah. Jonathan, what do you know about carbon remediation? Are you familiar with any legislation? Do you see that path for hemp?
Well, so the environmental aspects of hemp are what got me into the hemp world. My first job ever was working for Al Gore when he ran for president back in 1988. And it kind of got me involved in politics, and I've been, a real advocate for climate change remediation. And I saw early on that hemp offered some real opportunities, both in terms of carbon reduction, but also in terms of the sustainability of its products with, again, the hemp plastics. Plastic, traditional plastic is going to stay in a landfill for thousands of years. Hemp is biodegradable and sustainable. So I am real hopeful that as research happens, we're going to see a whole lot of progress for hemp being used for those kinds of applications.
Tony brought up a point here in the chat part about we're going to have issues with outdoor medical marijuana and CBD strains and grain and textiles and all that stuff. What are you seeing in a bigger picture nationwide of this this issue with cross-pollination? Are you seeing any movement, any help there?
Yeah, I mean, it's only a matter of time when marijuana is going to be completely legal. We know from the demographics of the country that young people, by 80-90% support legal marijuana, and so it's only a matter of time that we're going to see all 50 states it will be legal.
And surprisingly, a lot of baby boomers are very supportive of it too.
Yeah.
I see those stats all the time, and now that they're retired and have time on their hands or something, but they're supportive, So
it's so 2 years, 5 years, 10 years. I don't know what it's going to be, but it'll happen. And this is going to be a critical issue as to how we can be able to segregate these crops to make sure that cross-pollination doesn't occur. I mean, as you know, and perhaps many of the viewers of the show know, if you have the two crops grown too closely together, the cross-pollination can dramatically decrease the THC content in the marijuana, basically ruining it. I've seen that in places like Colorado, there have been some real efforts to try to figure out ways to handle this. I'm not deeply involved in those issues, but I imagine they will continue to rise.
Yeah, I think that all the medicine's going to have to go inside eventually with HEPA filters. So it's.
Ken had another question there. Has there been any discussion on lengthening the window for hemp harvest once the testing has taken place? Right now, we've got that 15-day window.
Yeah. So go ahead.
What they're doing that in Michigan is that you can, if you get to the end of that 15 days, you can just kind of reapply. You got to send in another sample, another $125, but that's how they kind of handle it in Michigan. What do you see in nationwide?
Yeah, so the USDA put out that guidance and then got a lot of criticism for it. And they said, listen, we're not going to have this applied to this year's crops, and we're going to continue to get comments in terms of how we're going to handle this in 2021. And I'm pretty hopeful, given the loud outcry, that we'll see a longer testing window when they plan. But again, they want to hear from you. They left their comment period continues to be open, and so please go, and if this is an issue you care about, go to the USDA comment site and you go to their hemp program on Google, or again you can find it through our hempsupporter.com website. But have your say. The more they hear from, the more flexible we think they'll be.
Lori's asking a question. Have you been involved in developing a value position for fiber in the auto industry? Most of these large corporations are looking for what's in it for them.
Yeah, I haven't. My focus is on advocacy. I'm in Washington and in state capitals, advocating for legalization and regulation and safe and legal products across the country. I've actually had the opportunity to be testifying in Lansing a couple times and enjoyed that. So I'm not involved on that side. However, I do know a lot of those discussions are going on. In Kentucky, there is a huge Toyota plant, which is right in the middle of hemp country in central Kentucky. And there's been a lot of discussions there. And I just think it's a matter of time. But the more we advocate for it, the more opportunity there's going to be.
Tony's asked a question here that I'll answer for. She says, if you get approval from a property but the state or tribe hasn't turned in their plan to USDA, I'm understanding that if we go to USDA rules, then that's correct. So if the state doesn't have an approved plan by November 1st, then you'll be able to sign up directly through USDA. And most likely that'll be through the FSA office, I would assume. And then do you have to declare ourselves to the farm for the township? No. Again, hemp is a legal crop, so this isn't like marijuana where you have to get permission to be able to grow it and they have to be in the program, that kind of thing. So no. And you will certify the farms at the FSA office, the Farm Service Agency, but that's not required for this year. The state is not requiring that, but it's a pretty simple process. And if you haven't contacted your local FSA office to get set up to do that, it's pretty simple. They're going to have a few documents you got to supply to them, but not a big deal. And I can help anybody that might need that for that. So where do we sit with this going from 0.3% to 1%? Where are we going on that? We got any legs on that or not?
Yeah, it's got legs. It's going to take some time. The 0.3%, I think everybody recognizes just some made up number. There have been a number of theories I've heard as to why we got to 0.3%, but somehow it's stuck. I think that certainly folks in the industry recognize that intoxication does not begin until you get to 1%, and that is really the much better benchmark to use. I do think, though, that we're going to have, I don't think we're going to see any progress on it this year. We're really focused on trying to get the Safe Banking Act as well as the FDA legislation passed. But within the next year or so, this is going to continue to be a high priority, and particularly as this becomes even more successful across the country, you get the opposition will decrease, and so it's just a matter of time before we get it to 1.0. I know it's frustrating for a lot of folks getting hot crops at 0.4 and 0.5, but it's something that we're going to have to kind of struggle with until we can convince policymakers that this is should be a high priority.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, as well as the market, that is another concern that a lot of growers have is, I don't want to invest all that money in that crop and then have it go hot. So,
yeah, it's a lot of risk. The legalization path, are you seeing, if we have overall legalization, then we shouldn't, that 0.3% or 1% shouldn't even be an issue, don't you think?
Yeah, that's the big thing. If we have overall legalization, then it really doesn't matter. It becomes more of a definitional issue as opposed to a legal issue. And so I think ultimately we'll see legalization, and there will be some distinction between hemp and marijuana. Maybe it's 1%, maybe it's a little higher, but until then, we'd like to get hemp up to 1.0 in the interim because of the challenges farmers have.
Yeah. Are you seeing, you were talking about the tribe of people or the momentum in Washington? Are you seeing more momentum right now?
Well, there's been such a focus on COVID right now. We had a lot of momentum, and then COVID hit. Right now, and this morning was our comments to the USDA is one of our opening salvos, is to get the word to Washington that hemp farmers are really struggling, and that we need to have help both in terms of the CFAP program, the Safe Banking Act, and the FDA regulatory relief. And so we will continue to be making that case and making it as strong as possible.
That's good. Really appreciate all you're doing.
Jonathan, how about you had a program going on, and maybe you still do this, work from home, work for hemp?
Yeah, so we, a lot of people are still stuck in quarantine. They certainly were for quite some time, and we're trying to look for ways that they could help contribute. We focused early on charitable efforts. We raised money for a group called Vitamin Angels, which provides free vitamins to pregnant women and to disadvantaged children. We're able to get a lot of support for that. We've been encouraging folks to, like you mentioned at the beginning of the call, to share hemp products with our first responders, with hospitals, et cetera, whether they're hemp masks or other kinds of equipment. And that's been something that's been ongoing. But we also, our hemp work from home also has to do with things like we talked about earlier, whether it's emailing your senator about the Safe Banking Act, or if it's emailing or making a comment to the USDA about the CFAP program. So just because, I normally spend half of my life in Washington, D.C., going door to door to meet with congressmen and senators and their staffs. For the last 3 months, I've been stuck in my home office here in Lexington, Kentucky. But the beat goes on, and we have been able to demonstrate that we're able to continue our strong lobbying efforts from our own homes. And we encourage you all to help join the fight, because again, I've got great connections in Washington. I work very closely with Senator McConnell and with Senator Wyden on the Democratic side, and with any number of hemp House and Senate supporters. But we only really are as effective as how big our army, grassroots army is. And that's why I always am asking you to sign up to be a hemp supporter, because we have now throughout about 50,000 hemp supporters, whether they're signed up for our email list or they're followers on our social media. If we can get that to 100,000, 200,000, that's when we become even more powerful.
Excellent.
Well, Jonathan, we thank you. Anyone else have any other questions? Go ahead and type them in. We'll kind of move on a little bit.
Ken has a question. Ken Hampshire out of Colorado, he has a question about organic. Are you, I don't know if this is in your wheelhouse, but any plans to have a certified organic crops, a certification path for hemp?
Yeah, no, I understand that there have been a handful of companies that have gotten organic certification for their hemp.
Okay.
Again, that's all through the USDA, and in time we'll see that become the standard. But right now, they've been moving slowly.
Okay. All right.
One of the big ways for that would be, when we get them here, we're trying to get the US Hemp Authority to come out and do their class. They have a class on getting certified, so you can have the seal on that. So we're working with them to try to get them to come here and do that, and that'd be one of the ways to support that organic label. Certainly.
Terrific. Well, I know the head of the US Hemp Authority, her name is Marielle Weintraub. You should have her on one of these programs, and she can share with your hundreds of viewers, how to get certified just right here. So I encourage you to do that.
Yeah, we've got that. We've got that on the schedule somewhere along the line. That's for sure. All right. Tony asked about the USDA, and I'll cover that just a little bit. Again, I'll cover what I know about some of the other stuff too. So, all right.
Dave has to fly to Lansing, right?
I'm gonna thank you so much, Jonathan. I really appreciate all your efforts. We've got about 1,000 people on our email list. I'll definitely invite everyone to your website. I have it pulled up here, so when I get back, we'll be sending that out. Keep up the great work.
Thank you so much for what you all do and helping get the word out. We appreciate it.
Yeah,
Jonathan, we're still planning on having an actual expo. We had our first one last year. We're planning that for Lansing, just so you know, in mid-January. We'll send some information. If we have to do virtual, we'll have that too, but we certainly want to invite you out to be able to come to the expo and be able to talk to people there in a face-to-face if we have that opportunity. So
I can't wait to get out of the house.
We promise the weather in January will be nice and warm for you as well. So.
Hey, it's going to be so cold, nothing can live. So don't worry about it.
I promise a 72-degree indoor temperature. So
everybody wants to be in Lansing in January. Yep.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks again.
So if any next questions, send them in, but we'll kind of move on. Jonathan, any last-minute comments you want to make before we?
No, thank you so much. Appreciate what you're doing.
All right.
Lane, you're in charge.
All right, Dave, have a safe trip. So Dave's going to take off, and again, we'll talk a little bit about that. This is where he's going to be donating these masks that we're getting, and this is another connect that we made in the fiber industry. JC Sutton Wheat Farm had a contact with California growers or California processor that had hemp fiber and knew the company to make the hemp mask, and so we're being able to provide 200 masks to MDART for them to be able to use. So the campaign right now, we'll try to get it on the front page as well, but if you go to the iHemp website, go to the iHemp Hour and kind of drill down a few steps there, you'll find. So for $50 donation, you get a mask as well, and you have a choice of a taupe color or a blue jean color that's actually dyed with hemp dye to make it the blue jean color. And then for $75, you get a mask and you get a very cool t-shirt that we have. It's a hemp t-shirt with the logo on it. It shows the state of Michigan with a mask on it. So it's kind of cool if you look on the website for that. So we can use all the help we can. We're trying to raise about $3,000 to cover all that cost for being able to do that for them. And we'll have some for sale as well on the website as soon as we can get that arranged and get them sent here. So let's see. Okay, so over the weekend, I talked about a couple of recipes that I was going to try. I hope everybody got a chance to do the salmon recipe because that was wonderful. We have some pictures, but I think Dave's gone, so I don't know if I can bring them up or not. But I also did two other ones. It is the blueberry hemp crumble bars and chia hemp seed oatmeal cookies. So this is what is left after the grandkids got done leaving me some. I actually had to freeze them, so I had some to show you there. Oh, there goes a cookie. Anyways, so they're really yummy. And the blueberry crumble, I highly suggest. That takes a little longer than most of the recipes that I've been working with because you got to get some lemon zest, and you got to break it down, you got to get some blueberries. But blueberries are coming into season here real quick. So this is one I highly, highly recommend. They're very, very good to do that. So next week, we're going to try to have a vegan chocolate hemp fudge recipe for next week. So I'll let you know how that all turns out. All right. So talking a little bit about the assistance again. Yes, there is assistance through USDA. The PPP program, the last I heard on the news about a week ago, they still had quite a bit of money left in that program from the second go around. So if you haven't applied for that, for the help with the payroll and that kind of thing, that's still available for that program.
From my understanding is the first one, a lot of it went to very big businesses, and then the second go around, they're really targeting the much smaller businesses.
Yep. And USDA came out with their rules for how to apply for, how to put the documentation in for that loan to be forgiven if you've used it for payroll. So that information is out there as well. And again, this coronavirus food assistance program, the CFAP, information's out on that. Unfortunately, again, it's not going to help right now hemp farmers, but sounds like they're trying to work on that. So we'll see. We'll keep you updated on anything that comes in on that and of things. But for regular farmers and livestock growers and dairy guys, there's a great program. It's very easy to apply for. USDA and FSA is not asking for the documentation to support the numbers you're putting on here. But I tell all my clients when I'm advising them, make sure that you have the information of how you came up with that, keep that with your application that you send in yourself, whether it be through your crop insurance. If they came out and had a loss on here, they've had the figures there. If they measured your bins, FSA, may have measured your bins for loans in the past. You may have turned your information in. You may have your sales documentation. So keep all of that stuff handy because if they ever do ask for a spot check in 2 years or 3 years down the line, it might be kind of hard to dig out that up. But right now it's handy and you've got it. So make sure you attach it to it. It's just a simple 2-page application. You sign it. And right now the offices are basically closed. You can call them to set up an appointment if you need it, but most everything can be done pretty much online with them. Email, fax, snail mail if you need to. So there's ways to get in touch with them and get service from them without necessarily having a visit. And they are answering the phone. Usually they've got one employee in the office at a time. The other ones are working from home. So if it's a particular topic that maybe that employee doesn't handle that program, they can get information to the employee that does handle that program and get that information sent out to you. So they've been very, very good with getting back to me and cooperating with me with my clients and my questions I have. So on that. All right. So let's see if we got anything else in the chat here. Mike, anything you want to bring up?
No, I think we covered everything in the beginning. We can always end early, so.
Well, we got 9 minutes here. I can stretch it a little bit farther. Maybe some other people have some comments, something they like us to put on the
I see someone's offering to do a barbecue here in the chat room.
Yeah, so. Tony, we're all in for that. It'd be great to do a field day. Maybe during the growing season, just right around flowering time. Maybe that might be nice to come up and do that. Maybe we can do a live broadcast right from your fields up there. We did that before, so we'd love that. Is aiding with food baskets. Oh, okay. So Tony, what are you doing with the food baskets? See if she responds on that.
might have left us.
No, she's there. She'll type it on something there. But anyways, but we're excited that we're able to make this fiber contact too. There are a number of small plots I know that are going in of fiber and grain this year. I've been working with my grain. I've got 20,000 pounds of hemp grain, and we're getting it made into some hemp oil. And we're going to try to use the cake of that oil, or that cake of that seed, to use to make a flour, and also then to also use it for livestock feed. So again, that's going on. So we're working on that. Making this contact on these hemp masks with the fiber, I think that's going to move us a little bit away, maybe to be able to create a little market here in Michigan for the fiber. So we're, like I say, we're trying to do as much as we can behind the scenes. We wanted to do a kind of a hemp business seminar more than an expo right now, but to bring manufacturers in and let them know about the products that they can make and what's available and how we can get the supplies to them and stuff. So we're still working on that. Again, with this right now, with the COVID problem, it's making it a little difficult, but we're still moving ahead with that for sure. Okay, perfect. Let's do it. They have a list of all members and put it out in an application to participate and send produce. Oh, so you're sending produce to some of the people that are sending into you, then, like food baskets, that kind of thing. I'm interpreting that, Tony. Class for future hemp farmers, and she's working on a class for future hemp farmers together with Green Farms. Well, that'll be exciting for people that want to have a class on that. And again, we're going to try to do a little bit of, I'm going to be planting hopefully this weekend, so I'll have some pictures of putting in about 9 acres. Half of that's going to be for grain, half of that's going to be for fiber. So we'll try to have that. And Green Farm said they'd buy all the biomass. Well, that is a hallelujah. Maybe we need to have them on one of these times if they want to talk about that. Because that would be wonderful if they're making contracts for farmers. That would be wonderful.
Contact
Yeah. Maybe there's some contact info that we can get up on there. People can give them a call on that. All right, Mike, anything you want to add to the show today?
No, just other than we're looking forward to, I guess planting season is at hand here, even though it's been a rather rainy. So as this progresses, we may have to change the time slot if everybody's in the field at noon on Thursday and make it an evening show or something. But other than that, we sort of welcome your suggestions for topics you want us to cover that maybe that we haven't thought about, or you can confirm topics that we are thinking about. So if you have any ideas, send those in.
Absolutely. Next, for future shows, I'll just give you an idea of some of the things we're thinking about for the near future. One is going to be again on a nutrient for hemp. We may have that. We're going to try to set that up for next week if we can. It's a good time to talk about that, making sure that you've got everything that the plant needs to be able to grow a good crop there. Another one we're going to have is Eric Steenstra from Vote Hemp has confirmed that he would be on the show. So again, another one to talk about a lot of great topics, both locally and of course nationwide for them that they're working on, and things that we can do to help them to make sure that we get the legislation and the kind of rules that we need to have to make hemp be able to move forward. So those will be on the show. So again, any of you have suggestions, please send them in. We'll be more than happy. You got a long season that we're going to go through. We're going to continue to do this throughout, and we're going to try to do, a lot of live remotes. We have a processor that we're going to try to do a live interview, or maybe a recorded interview on that one. A processor here that's going on in the state right now. So a lot of good topics that we're going to cover to keep everybody. Again, our main mission is to help everybody and educate everybody on hemp and be able to develop this market here in the state. I know that MDARD is working on getting their plan ready to submit to USDA. And so as soon as we can get some confirmation on that, what that plan actually, the full plan looks like, we'll let you know. But I know that's getting discussed on a regular basis right now. So with that, anybody have any other last comments? We appreciate everybody taking time to come on the show. And for those that view it at a later point in time, we appreciate that as well. And We look forward to seeing everybody next week.